Unabated. That's too big a word. That's like mayonnaise. I'm sure that's the biggest word I know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on into the Blitz NFL player props with none other than Derek Carty of EV Analytics. Derek, we are back in action for another great week here. Feel like we've been doing okay so far on the season. It's still very early, very young in the year, but I mean, speaking personally from what I've been able to hit so far, I'm like slightly profitable so far on the year. How have you been feeling so far?
Yeah, last week was a bloodbath. I got destroyed. The first 2 weeks were good to me. I mean, it's going to happen eventually. You know, it sucks to happen early in the year to have a week that was as rough as it was, but you know, it is what it is, and we move on, and it's a long season. You know, it's going to even out. Historically, we've done really well. The Blitz has done really well, so I'm not concerned. We just keep firing.
Yeah, I actually I was okay last week. I ended up fairly when all was said and done, I was like, I think I made $20. But
good for you.
Yeah, anytime you're not in the red is a good time.
Especially last week.
Yeah. Unfortunately for us here on the show last week, it was not that great. Looking at the results from week 3, we went 0 for 3 on the ones that we liked. We've got 4 props that we'll be talking about today. But yeah, so far on the season, minus 3.15 units last week, minus 0.85 units on the year, but we're 7-8. And, you know, we did, in fact, last season, we started off a lot slower than this. We were fairly negative through the first part of the season. So
I think we were negative until like week 8, and then we wound up doing really well the second half of the year. I don't think there's anything to that. Like, I think we can expect to start being profitable this week, but it goes to show like there's really nothing to worry about. We're dealing with very small samples right now.
Exactly. Meanwhile, here Blue saying, I'm only here for Derek's glorious hair. Hey, we got the best hair in the prop game going on. That's just facts right now. Jansen Webb saying, let's have a massive week 4. Morwell saying, wait, what kind of stream is this again? And Boglor is back saying the one that gives you the hottest props, because yeah, it is. Boglor also pointing out this has been a tough year for NFL betting in general. I mean, I'm finally out of the Survivor contest, just like everyone else on the planet is. It's been a rough year. No favorites are touchdown favorites are like 1 in 12 at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like, things are just not playing out the way they should, the way you expect them to. You know, we have some uncertainty with kind of I don't know what you call it in football, the scoring environment, I guess you call it a run environment in baseball. Like with, you know, we don't know. Teams are running a little bit more. They're not throwing as deep. There's all these kind of things that are still kind of up in the air and working themselves out, which hasn't helped anything. But I think we're in for a good run soon. Yeah,
I think that this is going to be the week. Sports Video saying bounce back week for sure. Curtis Victor is having a real tough season. He's down 70 units on the NFL right now. I'm sorry, man. The good news is, hopefully it's going to turn up. I can't say the only place you can go is up, because let's face it, it could get worse, but we're going to hope that is not what happens here. We're going to have a good week. We're going to probably not get you back in the green all in 1 week, but we're going to start clawing it back today. XL Spread Cheeks, still my favorite name of anyone who has come across the chat, saying the passing yards have dominated me. Yahtzee is calling for them to bring in the juiced footballs, and Sports Videos asks, Carty, why is everyone in the NFL bad? Because we have perfected parity in the league. Everyone is trash now.
Yeah, it really seems like it to start the year. And you up. I mean, it really could be as simple as starters didn't play in the preseason. They're a little rustier. The first few weeks, they didn't play great. And we get regular, normal, as expected NFL football starting this week or next or soon, hopefully. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, we're seeing a lower, as XL spreadsheets points out, is defense king now. We're like, the too high safety look is changing things. I don't think it's the be all end all like the pundits are saying, but teams are passing yardage is down historically down. Like the line trend of the past couple years, as this has become the in vogue defense with the cover too high, is passing yards have started to diminish. Maybe we're even going to get to the point where teams actually start running the ball again. But we do have to hope for some regression here this week. How much are you starting to adjust things? Like, Are you
Yeah.
tweaking things in the Blitz? Are you saying, hey, you know what? We're only a couple weeks in here. What's your process looking like at this moment in time?
Yeah, so I've made a couple little manual tweaks to give a little extra weight to the current year with everything that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it, it's not like this is like a drastic, like everyone's like freaking out, like no teams are passing anymore and everyone's terrible. And like it kind of seems that way. But like when you look at the actual numbers, like they're running the ball like 2% more often. Passing yards are down, but they're not down 50%. Like, yeah, we don't want to overreact to it just because everyone is talking about it.
Exactly. As Peaky points out, a wise man once said, trends aren't predictive. Now, one of my favorite sayings, trends do not pay the rent. And there are a lot of reasons for this. Again, as the chat is pointing out here, Blue, too high safety versus a loaded box is cyclical. Offenses adjust, then defenses adjust. Yahtzee, lots of new QBs as well with the exodus of the golden QB era. It's true. We used to watch gods on Sunday mornings. As I've said it so many times at this point, Peyton, Breeze, Brady, Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers even was putting up cartoon numbers. Like we had so many quarterbacks putting up cartoon numbers in that day and age. And Curtis Victor saying, I blame college football and these garbage offensive linemen they're churning out. And this is something that you've also heard. Shout out to Coach Speak Index here. But some of the coach speak that we've had go around is that offensive linemen are not coming into the NFL game as pro ready as they have in the past. And that means that there's a larger adjustment that needs to be made for them. And they're not going to be as good nearly as often. Kids can't pass protect as more. LD Yank said college football definitely not producing the right skill sets right now. Yeah, there's been a lot of differences in the college to NFL games. And Yahtzee asks anything to the point that since teams go for it more on fourth down, that causes total drives to decrease. That's an interesting argument. I mean, I feel like it's balanced out by the fact that you're also extending that drive now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously field position is going to be a little bit better. And maybe, as teams get closer to the red zone, they run more, they churn the clock. I don't know. I'd have to run the numbers on it. It's possible.
Yeah. That's something that's worth checking into. Maybe we'll talk more about that next week here. As Excel spreadsheet says, are there any ways to predict trends? Maybe a dumb question, but just popped into my head. I mean, I feel like that's what we're all here looking for and trying to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times trends are just noise. Like it's just, okay, it's been going this way. And then it kind of regresses back to, where it was before. Trying to predict that trend ahead of time, especially if the trend itself was just noise, is going to be impossible. Mm-hmm. But we always work with the information that we have. If NFL changes the rule, I mean, we've done it in baseball. Baseball changes the rules, and we expect trends to change. We expect things to change. So we try to consider everything as much as we can.
Yeah. At least as much as we can look at. And, it is the key with trends is to identify, okay, is this provable? Is it something that is actually measurable here? Things like that really do matter when it comes to how you want to look at these and how you want to examine them, because you can be predictive when it comes to some of these trends just by second order thinking, something that Andrew Mack talks about so often. Think, okay, well, this is going to happen, which is going to cause this. And normally it's that first order where people stop. And if you take that extra step and go, well, what does that mean for this? Like, for example, and I'm purely making something up here, this isn't real, but if we have the kickoff rule change and now drives are starting further down the field, which is decreasing passing yardage, but does that also lead to an increase in rushing yards? And again, obviously those two things are not actually related, but my point is you want to think about, okay, so passing yardage is down because teams are starting further out. What else is that going to affect here? Joe E, with our final question before we'll start getting into some of these props here, because he's getting impatient. He's saying, let's roll. Joe E says, when the Unabated prop simulator is showing edges in the 10 to 40% range, what is the more realistic ROI? That's a great question. My personal back of the napkin shorthand, and this is not an official Unabated sanctioned way to calculate it. I'm emphasizing that this is solely the way that I write my personal shorthand, is I kind of divide it by 4 and I look at it that way. But again, that's that's my personal preference, and that's how I look at it when it comes to calculating my ROI. Pat Metzger says every single rule implemented over the last 20 years has been geared toward the offense. Aren't we better off not having to pretend mediocre QBs are good? I completely agree with that. And Joey says, is it even worth betting on a Saturday afternoon after the prices have changed so much after release? What do you think?
I bet throughout the week. I mean, the lines that have been there since Tuesday and are still sitting out there on Saturday, you're going to probably have lost some value. There's some survivor bias going on with those lines, maybe. I'm generally not betting those. I'll bet those ones earlier in the week when I get the better number. Books do open more props as the week goes on. Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, even they open new markets. So those absolutely should be betting into. A lot of times those are the best ones because it's, the team's third string tight end and, the line's just off on them, like those are opportunities to be had.
Yeah. All right, Derek, shall we get into it and start talking about some props here?
Let's do it.
All right, coming in with our first one to look at here today. We got the prop simulator running. Where are we going to go, my friend? Because, I'm feeling some Jacoby Brissett.
We're going Deshaun Watson first.
My bad. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so we're looking at Deshaun Watson over yardage. Looks like this 197.5 minus 108 is the best, but they're all around the same, 196, 198, 200. He hasn't gotten over this number yet this year, and I don't think he's the guy he used to be. Like, I don't think Watson is very good.
No.
But it's a low number. We have to expect some regression overall for the league, as we were talking about. This projects as one of the fastest paced games of the week. Vegas plays fast. It's indoors, which helps quarterbacks. Watson hasn't really had that luxury this year. So you can see the Blitz is projecting a good 45 or so yards over this. And it's showing a lot of value.
Yeah, that is a big line there. But I mean, this is talking about some of the positive regression in this case for Deshaun Watson towards the average mean for his use case. And no Max Crosby this week for the Raiders.
Right. That's going to help. It's worth noting that Cleveland has been I think a top 3 team in pass rate this year when you account for game script and context and everything. Generally, historically, this coaching staff has been more run heavy, but they're projecting now somewhere in between based on just the math that the Blitz runs. But if they are the super pass heavy team now, there are going to be some weeks where he just blows this out of the water, and he has good receivers to work with.
Yeah. Like he's got Amari Cooper, right? Like
he's got Amari Cooper. He got Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Got Elijah Morris. Not bad.
Disagree, but
well, if you're a Jets fan, of course you're going to disagree.
Marwell's saying that there's a few. There are a few. This guy isn't very good, but the line is disrespectful. Lines on QBs this week. Bo Nix comes to mind.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I know the Blitz is very into Trevor Lawrence overs this week after he's been pretty bad for the first 3 weeks. But it's important not to overreact. We're 3 weeks into the season now, and we're starting to get to the point where people are like, all right, yeah, I know NFL, I know ball, I know how good these guys are. And it's like, it's only been 3 weeks. Chill. Their players are not who they were for the first 3 weeks. There is other things to consider.
Exactly. Excel spreadsheet saying I can't quit the passing yards. Someone help me. I mean, passing yards were one of the best ones you could have last week because we started to hit some of those overs.
Yeah. There's been some gross ones last week. I mean, Sam Darnold was kind of like the Blitz's big stand, and he went out there and played amazingly, but just like Houston couldn't score and they were playing from ahead and he didn't have to throw as much as they normally would. Like last week felt like that kind of week where it's like, okay, this really feels like it should have won. And just because of something stupid, it didn't. So I'm not overreacting to last week. I'm still into over passing yards, even with all the narrative around passing and running this year, especially when it's showing value like this.
Yep. And Casey Jessup points out, seems like a lot of edges on rush attempts this week. How are we feeling about them overall through the first 3 weeks? Yeah, last week it felt like the big regression was, okay, the market's overcorrected on passing yards. Now we're looking at some rushing attempts.
Yeah. I haven't noticed a ton showing like huge value this week, but I definitely have bet a few. Zamir White earlier in the week I got. We can maybe look at some of them later in the show.
Yeah, we can do that. Brian Sione has one more question about this Watson number. Maybe not as strong now with Devontae Adams ruled out. I disagree. This Raiders offense has been so bad so far through the season, even with Gardner Minshew like having that one good week against the Ravens. I don't think that I don't think it matters as much because this game might just be two teams that are so bad that the Browns can't go out and establish the lead. And as a result, you see more passing later in the game here.
Yeah, I don't think Devontae being out helps. Obviously, it gives Cleveland a greater chance of winning the game, of playing from ahead, of not having to pass later. But even an elite wide receiver like Devontae, I mean, he's not worth more than probably, I'm kind of just guessing, but I think like a point or two. It's not like some massive thing where all of a sudden now this becomes terrible. Like we have a lot of wiggle room with an edge like this.
Exactly. All right. The Browns have flipped to the favorite. Now the total is down to 36. Yeah, this game is going to be rough to watch. Excel spreadsheets also saying it seems like game script projection has been the most off thing this year so far. And yeah, that's really just because so many of the heavy favorites that we've had have not been performing. And that's one of the things that's one of the things that the Blitz has done best historically is accounting for game script and the way that game script will affect volume and projections. If game scripts are not going the way they're supposed to, there's nothing we can do about that. Eventually it'll the variance will smooth itself out and game scripts will be what they're supposed to be. And we'll start winning those instead. Exactly. All right. Next up on our play sheet here, do we want to go? Yeah. Next up here, let's ride the car over to Derek Carr and the Saints here. Marwell's pointing out the volatile NFL is volatile, and you want to talk about volatile. Derek Carr from weeks 1, 2 to 3.
Yeah, Carr's a guy I was high on coming into the year. Obviously, balled out the first couple weeks, kind of regressed last week. I think he's somewhere in between. Like he's a decent quarterback, an above average quarterback. He's got some good weapons to throw to. This is a good game. It's going to be fast paced. It's in a dome. 18.5 is a pretty low number, I think. The Blitz is projecting him for about 21.5. Most of the market is at 19.5. So the 19.5, so you can see show decent value, but the 18.5, kind of the odd number right now, shows the most.
Yeah, that 18.5 feeling like the move when it comes to this completions market here. And Howdy asks, in other words, you use market spread and total in your projections, correct? And that is something that's very much coming into play here because I'd imagine this is expected to be a very close game. Yeah,
this should be a close game. They should be, kind of back and forth. This has shootout potential. So yeah, that's gonna kind of help Carr's projection here.
And Derek Carr is also captain checkdown. Like one of the things that I love about getting Derek Carr projections is he's a guy who is not afraid to say, oh, you know what, rather than throwing this away, I'm dinking it to my running back here for a 2-yard loss. Like he's completely comfortable doing things like that.
Yeah, hasn't really been his mindset this year so far, but historically it has been. And he's got Alvin Kamara. He's got some decent tight ends. So yeah, I think we should certainly expect a little bit more of that in his game going forward.
Definitely. D Fogel saying real quick, how does your projection change if Kamara sits? Are we worried about this?
Are we really that worried? I actually haven't seen news on him today. He missed practice Wednesday, I think was limited yesterday. It hasn't seemed like they were all that worried, but I haven't seen anything today. This projection would be hurt a little bit if Kamara sits. But one player is never going to completely tank something.
Yeah. By the way, Brian Sione saying it's an ETR versus the Blitz duel here. ETR released under 19.5. All right. Well, we'll go. That explains why the FanDuel number is lower, but we'll go and we'll duke that out with them then. As Kevin Yerger says, I am finding a lot of value in prop simulator on shorter odds alts. For example, Deshaun Watson plus 175 yards at minus 250. Prop simulator gives a fair value of minus 1,000. Potential edge or be skeptical. Does the prop simulator consider injury risks It does a little bit, but yeah, I do not necessarily agree with that price on that. When you get to some of these lower end of the extremes, and let's face it, like 175 is a pretty low passing stat. It does kind of the math does kind of break down a little bit there, but you might want to go back and check that one because that sounds very off.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
Yeah. And I'll look into that too. I'll let our engineers know that maybe that's something to look at here. So thanks for bringing that up, Kevin. All right. Next up for us here is a player that has confused me every single week of this season because of Saints linebacker Demario Davis. But we're going to be looking at Demario Douglas here, the wide receiver for the New England Patriots.
We are. We're looking at 3.5 plus 140 at Bet365 as our best number, it looks like. The Patriots offense is, it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance Brissett doesn't make it through the game and Drake May takes over, which may help, may not. This is going to be a really slow-paced game, but Demario Douglas is a guy that the first 2 weeks he didn't do much. And then going into last week, I talked about him and how they said they want to make it a point to get him looks, to make him a bigger part of the offense. They realize he's one of their most dynamic players. And they did. He went out and had a huge game. And I'm not really expecting, I'm still expecting him to kind of be like the number one in this offense. So if we're getting, 3.84, this is probably close to a coin flip at plus 140, then that's going to be a good bet. We can actually see what the probability is. At 53%. So even better, a little better than the coin flip.
Yeah, I'm liking this one a lot. And again, someone has to catch passes on this Patriots offense.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of banged up players all around the San Francisco team.
And playing against San Francisco, you'd have to think they're trailing here and just forced to throw at some point.
Exactly. That is a huge factor to be looking into and to be considering when it comes to that. All right. Last up here, we are going to be going to Jacoby Brissett.
We are. We're going to have to go over to EV Analytics for this one, I believe.
Yahtzee also saying he's gotten some alts on this one. He's looking for that ladder here.
I like it. Yeah, if you can find a ladder with some good prices.
Yeah, Douglas has been good so far this year.
All right. So we are looking here at all right. We are looking at Jacoby Brissett under 2.5 carries, rushing yards. Looks like even money at Rivers is our best line. A big part of this is just that I think there's a pretty significant benching risk for Brissett, especially in a game like this against the Niners. If it gets really out of hand, he might not finish the game.
Yeah.
And so I think the Blitz right now, I think I'm projecting like 15 or 20% of the snaps to go towards May. And this is a guy who doesn't really run that much to begin with. Like historically, like he can, but they haven't drawn up a single designed run for him all year. Only gone over this line in one time. I think it was week 1. You can see the Blitz is only projecting 1 carry here for him. So I like this one from a few different angles.
Yeah. I'm liking that one too. I don't get it with the Patriots. Their logic is, Jacoby Brissett's getting absolutely shelled back there. Let's throw Drake May in now, because the whole point of Jacoby Brissett playing is so that Drake May doesn't absorb the punishment. But you're just going to throw him in there, make it make sense. BR moved the other way. Bet Rivers moved the other way. Yahtzee says now at even money.
What's even money?
I think he's got to be. He can't be talking about. Is he talking about? Yeah, he's got to be talking about this, isn't he? Yeah, because he's saying, it looks like it's showing up as even money here. So he's talking about the Jacoby Brissett play. Yahtzee says yes.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good then. So that's what we're on here.
Mm-hmm.
They've talked about how much they like what they see out of Drake May. Like it.
Yeah.
I would say there's a really good chance within the next 2 to 3 weeks May is the starter, and that could come as soon as the third quarter of this week.
Yeah, he is going to be the starter before the end of the season, but it's just it's smarter to keep him out because this team is so bad. But I digress. Andrew Katz says, how does the Brissett rushing yards look?
We can take a quick look at that. I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah, we'll take a quick look at that. We'll recap the official Carty plays that the edges that we really like this week. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we're throwing everything to you. Throw all of your questions in. You can start getting them in now, and we'll start getting through and answering all of them here. So any players that you want to look at, anything that you have your eye on, please enlighten us, fill us in, and we will look at the numbers for you. Oh, Derek's a high roller here. He got it down a cool $13.94 at Bet Rivers. That is $13.94 on this prop. That might be the most liability that they have this week on a prop, to be honest.
It really might be. That's a high number.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, that was the best line, but you could get, I think, 3 points worse at Caesars, or there's other outs you have.
Excel spreadsheets is down to $3.54. Look, man, you got to get that EV. You got to get that value in, right? Camby's going to Camby, as Boglor says. All right. What do you think with the rushing yards mark here?
It looks pretty similar. You can see the Blitz is projecting about 4.5, implied's around 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the same logic I used for the last one. They haven't run any design runs for him, and he may not play the whole game.
Yeah. All right. Now let's take a look here, because we've got the questions starting to pile in. So let's recap here real quick our 4 props that we are looking at this week. We've got Deshaun Watson over 198.5 passing yards. It was -110 at Bet365. Derek Carr over 18.5 completions, -114 at FanDuel. Demario Douglas over 3.5 receptions, +142 at Pinnacle. And Jacoby Brissett under 2.5 carries here at Bet Rivers. Derek, how are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. We got in at about the numbers that we wanted. A lot of them are gross. Like, you don't want to really bet a Deshaun Watson over. But that's where we get offered value a lot of times. So that's, I'm good with it. Exactly.
All right. Let's start looking at some of these. We can fly back to the unabated side of things here, and we can start looking at some of these questions that we've got, because you guys are already filling in the chat here. So again, we're going to go, the show goes as long as you guys have props to give us. So we'll talk about all of them here. Jansen Webb says, the Blitz likes Zamir White again. Are you all taking him again this week? Here we go. You've already talked about him a little bit.
God, yeah, I took him earlier this week. The Devontae Adam news and the spread shift there doesn't help. But yeah, I'm still riding the Zamir White train.
Mm-hmm.
It might be just a train wreck like it has been every other week, but the Blitz is projecting over 15 carries. We get the 12.5 at even money. There's some 11.5s out there with heavier juice that still project well. Like, it's tough because, like, when you look usage wise, it's actually kind of evened out, where, like, just on a rate basis, like week 1, we were like, oh no, Alexander Madison, after they talked up Zamir White all off season, Alexander Madison is, going to take a bunch of these carries. And that hasn't been the case the last couple of weeks. Like, Zamir White is the lead back here. He is getting the bulk of the carries. The problem is they haven't run that much. They've been playing from behind too much. And their running game has just been so bad that it seems like maybe they don't want to run the ball. They've talked this week about changing up their scheme to try to get things going. They still talk about wanting to get Zamir White 15 to 20 carries per game. I'm going to keep riding it. I am.
Antonio Pierce keeps saying that he's going to feed Zamir White, and he never does. But also, I feel like we all just got really high on this guy, and I use we in the global term because I did not really have an opinion here, but because of that Jack training camp photo that came out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a training camp photo, and there was just, I mean, last year we saw down the stretch, he played well. They gave him all the work. Antonio Pierce wanted to run. They talked about it all off season.
Yeah.
It just hasn't happened yet, but
yep,
I think it should.
All right, we'll get on to some more questions here, but in the meantime, we have 125 people watching right now. I want to remind y'all, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you don't miss a minute of any of our videos. Let's try and get up to 1,100 subs today. That would be absolutely phenomenal if we could do that. I hear rumors coming down the pipe. Roger Goodell called me, and he said if we get to 1,100 subscribers, every single one of these plays is going to cash. The script writer is going to write it in for us. So that's your incentive here for this week. As Sports Videos says, is the Blitz expecting 50 fantasy points again for Juwan Jennings this week? Because let me tell you, those 50 fantasy points all on my bench last week. You are muted there.
Yeah, I'm mute. Yeah, if you played DFS last week, the Blitz loved Jennings. Did not think he was going to do that, no. but yeah, I mean, Kittle looks like he's going to be back this week. I think I heard that Lynch said that Debo even has a shot to be back. So if everyone's back, then Jennings, not as good. But assuming Debo's out, he is still going to have like a pretty significant role in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, Jennings is like really that next man up mentality for them because things just keep going and they don't want to play Ricky Pearsall. So it works out for Jennings here. Let's see. Next up here, Pat Metzger says Tank Dell receptions under 3.5. And I mean, yeah, Tank Dell receptions are a great play here because as Arthur Dominguez points out, Tank Dell is not going to be playing in this game. So definitely going under, but you're not going to be cashing anything there.
Yeah, that'll be a void, I think. I'm projecting Dell not to play right now.
Yeah. However, Peaky wants to know, with Dell not playing, what are we looking at for Nico Collins here, Derek? Where are we going to go with him? Are we seeing any value coming up on his usage?
Well, we can take a look. I mean, the lines are set high. He's got 81 lines. You can see the Blitz is projecting high too, but not a ton of value. We can check the receptions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing. The books have accounted for this already.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Aaron 007 says Alec Pierce over 2.5 receptions at Fanatics at plus 280 seems a little bit crazy.
I wanted to talk about this one because I don't have access to Fanatics. Is this a real line that they're actually offering? Because if it is, like, we'll call that an official play. That's on the books. That's amazing. I have such a hard time seeing that being a real line.
Fanatics can be a little tricky with it. Like we're looking at them because it's got to be an alt line. But even then, it's not great. Like I certainly question if that one's going to be there or not. But if it is, yeah.
Can anyone confirm that this line is actually there? That would. Yeah.
Daniel Foley says it's real. Hit it at a kiosk today. Dave Fogel says it's real. Daniel Foley says it's not. Wow.
All right. So we'll add this to the card then. This is an official play. Alec Pierce over 2.5 receptions plus 280. Like, I mean, look at the value on that. It's insane. If you can hit that at a kiosk or whatever, like, do it.
Yeah. We're seeing some people that are saying no lines on the app, but I might have to run out here real quick and head down to Resorts World and jam this into a kiosk because Aaron 007 says got the 280 at Resorts World, which uses the same lines as Fanatics. Bogler saying gone in 60 seconds. Probably we hit it hard. That is good to know. I did not know Fanatics was running Resorts World here. I'm gonna have to go and get another app, yet another app here in Vegas so that I can play those lines. Meanwhile, going back up here, let's see. We've got Watson at 196. Jansen Webb saying I like the rush yards more than I do attempts. Cap-wise, Ben Carey asking, what do you make of Bo Nix this week, specifically in the passing yards?
I have no idea what to make of Bo Nix because last week they said, oh, yeah, we're going to run the ball to protect Bo Nix, and they were super pass heavy. They've been super pass heavy like for a lot of the season. But it doesn't make sense because this is a coach that generally wants to run. It's a rookie quarterback. They're on the road this week. The Blitz sees a little value on the under, but if they keep being this pass heavy, which the Blitz is not projecting them to continue being, then you never know. Like, this just seems like an offense in a spot that has pretty wide range of outcomes.
Yeah, and it is so rough because, again, the Jets' passing defense is really good.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, looks like there is some value on the under. If books or people are overreacting to last week, maybe the value's on the under here.
Yeah, it could very well be here. I mean, it's such a low line, though. I don't know. Do you think you were going to play this?
This probably doesn't quite meet the threshold for me, but I wouldn't tell anyone they're wrong to play it.
Okay. All right. So it's right in there where it's a pass for you, but it's not necessarily a pass in general. Let's go down the list. Tyler Jackson has a good one because I was eyeing this same play any value on Mahomes overs again? We didn't get there last week, but that was a rough one.
Yeah.
And I also want to nominate real quick. I want to go back up and nominate for bad beat of the week here. It was going all the way up sports videos. He had Lamb over 100 plus receiving yards at plus 120 last night. He had 85 midway through the second quarter. Lost that bet. That's brutal.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, when has Patrick Mahomes ever had a 247 line? Like, I get the environment is a little different this year. Casey hasn't been quite as pass heavy, but they're going into another dome this week.
Yeah.
Historically, Mahomes has been great in domes, just not last week when we bet is over.
Yeah.
As you should expect, like quarterbacks in domes play better, and Mahomes is already really, really good to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the Mahomes over here.
All right. And by the way, my mind is, I'm absolutely loving the fact that I can go and get Fanatics lines coming up here. I'm absolutely doing that. Let's see. Thoughts. Daniel Schlager says, thoughts on Braylon Allen under 8.5 rushing attempts here. I'm very curious on this one myself because the Jets have been getting Braylon Allen involved more and more on this offense.
They have. I know the Blitz likes this one. I haven't bet it myself yet just because it feels iffy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Blitz is giving Braylon Allen like a pretty sizable share of the carries here.
And that's still a lot because they do love Breece Hall with good reason.
They do. I mean, with Breece Hall, like they're going to play Breece Hall. But if they get out to a big lead, and they're just running the clock in the fourth quarter, like that Braylon Allen could go over just based on that garbage time.
Yeah.
The Blitz is projecting about one under here, one carry under. You're getting decent value on it. I don't hate it. But there are certainly a number of ways this one can play out.
Yeah. Might be a tough one. Bet at your own risk, but isn't that the way the world works?
Yeah.
Changing 500 says, does the Blitz project / do you bet touchdowns? Looking at Kelsey and Mike Evans for touchdowns this week. We don't normally bet them because it's usually tough to find the line on them. But Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, I almost never bet touchdowns. I do have projections for them, but for the most part, like touchdowns are one of those props that are really popular. The books know people want to bet them, and they know people only want to bet one side. They want to bet over. No one's betting under touchdowns. Most books don't even offer under touchdowns, which means that they can give bad prices.
Yep.
They hide their hold, and there's often not a lot of value on them, especially when you're talking about star players.
Exactly. It's just not like betting Christian McCaffrey minus 130 to score a touchdown. Although if you're doing that this year, you're really, really having a bad time. Peaky says, when is Unabated adding Fliff? This is not Tom Viola, official spokesperson for Unabated. This is Tom Viola, guy on the show right now that is giving you just a little bit of a peek in. Soon, very soon. Maybe not next week, but I can tell you it is actively being worked. Like we are working on getting Fliff on the screen. That is a very big priority for us. I will tell you that. I don't have any official update for you, but if I was a betting man, I would put my money on we will be talking about Fliff lines on this show this season at some point here.
Nice.
We got a whole bunch of conversation about that Alec Pierce line at FanDuel and kiosks. And then we get here, BRB points out the only bad part of betting Alec Pierce overs is that you have to count on AR-15 to complete 3 passes, which is very, very difficult.
Yeah,
Pat Metzger says Darnold derivatives didn't hit last week. Who had Andy Dalton leading the league in passing last week? Not me. But any similar long shots to root for this week? Because that one did feel right.
Yep. I got another one for you. It feels probably even grosser than Dalton did. This was the first prop I bet this week.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Trevor Lawrence this week.
I love this for 2 reasons. The qualitative reasoning of Trevor Lawrence, like the Jacksonville Jaguars they always seem to play Houston Texans tough. I also love it for the fact that Houston does not really have a defense this year.
Yeah. It's a good matchup. It's indoors, so it's we get that dome boost for Lawrence. They should be playing from behind. I mean, we said the same thing about Darnold against them last week, and it didn't happen, but they should be playing from behind. Lawrence should be forced to pass. He does have decent weapons to throw to. Hasn't looked great this year, but it's only been 3 games. And last year, the year before, like he looked like a serviceable NFL quarterback at least, an above average, maybe borderline good quarterback. We don't want to overreact to 3 weeks. So this is, fast-paced spot as well. You should see, a decent amount of volume. There's a lot of things working in Lauren's favor here. And as you can see, the Blitz really, really likes it. So if you want to find some alts or some ladders or some, whatever other derivative markets or whatever you want to find, there's probably going to be value on them.
Yeah. Ian H saying, if I were a betting man, says man hosting betting show. Very good point there, Ian. Marwell saying either Lawrence goes over or he goes under by a mile because he gets pulled in the third quarter. So I'm down. I'm loving it. I'll be on this and I'll pick up some alt line overs as well on that one. But the next up here, Javonte Williams rush yards. Derek M wants to know about.
I have no idea. That's one where
He's very, very mercurial.
Yeah, last week we bet the Jaleel McLaughlin, and it didn't work out. And that's another one where it felt like it should have. Like Denver was playing from ahead by so much, and they just kept passing the ball. It's like, give the ball to your backup running back. And then it reached a point where they're like, all right, we're ahead by too much, so we're going to give the ball to the third string running back. But then the third string running back played so well that they're like, well, maybe he's in the mix now. We're going to have, we're going to work all 3 of these guys in. So we really have no idea what the backfield split is going to be looking like for Denver this week. You can see the Blitz is projecting some over here, but it's based on just kind of hedging usage between the 3 backs. Like we really don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a tougher one. That's one that I'm probably going to stay away from. But if you want to look at it, go right ahead here. As Sports Video saying, Kevin K. We're going to go to him first. Then we got U Sports. Tyler Batty over rushing yards or carries. I know that Batty is
literally the same thing. He's the third string guy that we were talking about.
Yes,
it looks like there's no lines for him yet, but
yeah, we have to. He's the third string guy. We probably have to get him into our system. I'll make sure that our engineers get on that. Justin, if I could trouble you to just message Shawnee Mo and let him know that guy's not populating there. Appreciate that, Justin. Shout out to you in the producer chair for us, helping guide the show here. And Sports Video says, I've seen a lot of edges on rushing attempts overs this season. Is there more variance to those or more variance in yards? I feel like the answer is more variance in yards.
Yeah. No, yards. I mean, running back yards per carry is extreme. It's like one of the noisiest stats in football, whereas the actual carries are more stable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not to say there can't be value on rushing yards too. Mm-hmm. But if you're just talking about like stability, then yeah, it's carries.
Yeah. D Fogel saying, for what it's worth, DraftKings does offer no TD if you want to reverse engineer an approximate true price. That is very true. Luke Duke says, is Alec Pierce over 2.5 receptions at plus 168 a good value?
Well, we can use our simulator to find that out.
Yeah.
Let's so we got Alec Pierce projecting for 2.53. We will go to the prop simulator.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receivers. 2.53. Oh, let me get his yards too.
Yeah.
Actually, the yards don't matter if we're just doing receptions. We'll say 30 yards. Receptions. So if we're looking at, what was it, over
2.5?
Over 2.5 plus 130 something. What was it? Plus, what was the line?
Yeah, he's got plus 168, so he's getting good value.
Oh, so if it's plus 168, then yeah, fair value is plus 116 here. Then you're still looking good. Yeah,
that's looking pretty good there, Luke. I think you've got a good bet on your hands right there here. As Tyler Jackson says, Lawrence 300 plus yards is plus 575 on Hard Rock, another book we're working on adding to the screen. Gage Urbach wants to know Chuba Hubbard over under 60.5 rush yards and over under 80.5. So we get to mess around with an alt market here, and we can take a look at his main line. Do you think his volume continues in an improved offense?
So this is another one where we don't quite know what to make of this offense. Like, we definitely don't want to overreact to last week with Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Like I feel like lots of it, especially in the DFS community, like everyone's overreacting to last week, but like last week really shouldn't have told us anything we didn't already know, which was that Bryce Young is bad. Andy Dalton is a competent NFL quarterback. He's not great like he looked last week. Like he's an average, reliable NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So this offense is going to be better, but it's probably not great. But then we also have the uncertainty of like, what's the game plan going to look like? Because the first 2 weeks with Bryce Young, they were super run heavy. And then last week with Andy Dalton, they were super pass heavy. But this is a coach, Dave Canales, who has said he wants to run the ball. And he even said it after last week, going into this week, he wants to run the ball. But we don't know because they were super pass heavy last week too. So like there's uncertainty in just what the game plan is. We also know that they like Miles Sanders. Like Miles Sanders is still working into the mix. The Blitz is projecting Carolina more on the run heavy side, about a 2/3, 1/3 split between Chuba and Miles. And it looks like it's not seeing any value.
Yeah.
Assumptions.
Not to mention the fact that they've got what's his name on injured reserve who is sitting there right now.
He might be coming back next week. It looks like maybe. Yeah.
So we will see because that's going to be a big shake up there. All right. If you guys want to throw more questions into the chat here, we'll recap Derek's plays real quick and feel free to throw in some more. We'll get to them before we head out of here, probably at the top of the hour, depending on how many more questions you guys have for us. And I also want to remind you here, we're at 1,076 subscribers right now on the YouTube channel. So please, if we could get 24 more subscribers right now, get up to 1,100. Again, Roger Goodell called me up personally and said, Tom, if you get to 1,100, we will adjust the game scripts for you so that every single one of these bets hits this week. So, I mean, it's really just plus EV to hit that subscribe button because you're also never going to miss a minute of all of the unabated content that we have for you here if you do that. And of course, if you want to use these tools yourself with your Blitz subscription here, you can link your account with the Blitz with your Unabated account. And if you're not an Unabated member already, you can go to unabated.com/demo. Get yourself a one-on-one demo, most likely with me, talking you through how all of the tools work, and you'll get 5 days of premium free so you can try out all of these fantastic tools here. We've got some questions in the chat, but I did promise that we would recap your praise real quick here, Derek. So we've got Deshaun Watson over 198.5 passing yards, -110 at Bet365. Derek Carr over 18.5 completions, -114 at FanDuel. Demario Douglas over 3.5 receptions, +142 at Pinnacle. And Jacoby Brissett under 2.5 carries, -103 at Bet Rivers. All right. We've got a couple questions here. Kevin Yerger and Chad Martin pointing out DK will limit anyone hammering their no TD line, so using them to DVig is questionable. That's very true. I think if you and Chad says, I think if you look at DK anytime touchdown versus no TD lines, it gives you a good idea of the rough implied projection. But Nathaniel Pucci has a question here. He wants to know thoughts on Ramondre Stevenson rushing attempts here.
Well, we can take a look at that.
Mm-hmm. An Excel spreadsheet says he's rounding up his botnet as we speak. 1 million subs incoming. Please go for it. We would love it.
So yeah, Ramondre rushing attempts show some value, projecting about 2 carries over the line.
Mm-hmm.
New England, they are a run heavy team this year because their quarterback play is terrible. At a certain point in this game, they'll be forced to probably throw the ball. That's what I'm hoping with Demario Douglas. But Ramondre's been getting almost all of the groundwork. Gibson really hasn't worked in very much. So yeah, looks like some value on the over here.
Yeah. How about Josh Allen passing yards? Jansen Webb wants to know. Boglor says he's staying away. I'm pretty sure he's talking about the Josh Allen one, but nope. Boglor says, I can tell you as a Patriots fan, we should run Ramondre more than you do. As a Ramondre fantasy owner, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So Josh Allen looks like there's a little bit of value on the under passing yards here, facing a Baltimore team that, this is a spot where I forget what I'm trying to say. Well, we'll talk about the weather. The weather here looks like it could be a bad weather game, could be some wind, could be some rain. Projects as a very slow-paced game, so just low volume in general, especially for the Bills side because Baltimore plays so slow. And we've talked about it on the show before where Josh Allen and the Bills, like historically they've been a super pass heavy team, but they're not that anymore. They're on the run leaning side of the line.
Yeah. Bogler also saying they pulled Ramondre at the end of the game last week, gave a bunch of work to Gibson. They did do that. Yahtzee 22-1 for Lawrence as the weekly passing leader on DraftKings.
I like it. I do.
Not bad. It's not bad.
22-1 is really good odds for that.
If we could hit on one of these by the end of the season, the party that we're going to throw is so fantastic.
I mean, there's only 32 quarterbacks. Like 22-1 is still like for a guy that. No, yeah, I'm in on that.
Yeah. All right. Pat Metzger saying, have you seen Josh Allen throw a football? Wind does not affect that cannon. He has played in Wyoming and Buffalo. It's true, but this could also be just a fewer opportunities here in this game. Both teams could want to run the football a little bit more because the Ravens want to run the football, and this could be a game that just is quick.
And just because Josh Allen has played in bad weather before doesn't mean he's immune to it. Like bad weather is going to affect everybody.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, ladies, let's get any more questions that we have. Any last questions that we have? Last call, speak now or forever hold your peace until next week's show. And of course, I want to remind you guys, we will be back here again next week, as always, at noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, talking all about NFL Week 5 props. Damani S. wants to know, DJ Moore, ?
Yeah, this is one that was showing some value before that I didn't have a chance to look into because of doing a billion shows today. But I know his receptions were showing some value here.
Yeah.
It's a little scary because like DJ Moore could get there in the first quarter. Like he just can be that guy that they throw to, but Keenan Allen's looking like he's going to play. Roma Dunze last week looked really good, got a ton of work. They say, he's going to be in the mix now. So DJ Moore's probably not going to get the same target volume that he's been getting the first few weeks of the year, especially week 2 and 3, with the other two guys in the mix. This is a fast-paced game. There should be a lot of plays run, which scares me a little bit. There's a possibility Chicago will be playing from behind, or that it will be competitive at the very least, and they'll be able to throw as much as they want. A risk of some rain when I looked this morning, which could help it. I'm very tempted to take this one. I think I probably will wind up doing it.
Yeah, we will have to see. We will have to see what happens there. But there we go. All right. Zach Smith says Lamar plus 28.5 yards versus Allen. I mean, we can take a look and compare here. What do we have? What do we have Lamar's passing number at?
Let's take a look. So passing yards. All right. So Josh Allen was 212. Lamar 185. All
right. So right there, but not quite. Looking at like just back of the napkin, eyeballing it here. Not really loving the Lamar plus 28.5.
Yeah.
I'd say if anything, it's right around where we think it's going to be. So that's one that maybe we stay away from, Zach. But for now, Derek, I think we've managed to tire out the crowd here when it comes to the questions. We've managed to answer everything here. Do us a favor again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys. We are always looking to grow the channel, always looking to get more. Never ever miss a minute of all of the shows that we have for you. We appreciate you all being out here. Thank you so much for being with us for another great week. And a reminder, next week, tune in an hour early. Check out Chris K and myself, although next week is going to be our own Colin Sherwin instead, filling in for him. But we always talk college football props right before this as well. And our college numbers have been quite good so far this season. If you see our prop results here from those, 308 total projections, 205 positive edges, and we have had $23,000 wagered for a 12.5% ROI. If you were $100 better, you'd be up almost $3,000 right now on those. Can't really beat that when it comes to the numbers. We love to see it. So please check out our college show before this as well. But for now, Derek, thank you again so much as always for being with me here. We'll be back next week, same time, same place right here. Thank you all in the chat. Damani, Yahtzee, Brooke, KGB, Chad, Zach, Pat, Boglor being in there as well. Jansen, Tyler, Luke, Gage, Ian, Derek, Sports Videos, Ben Carey, Daniel, Changing, Peaky, so many guys in here, so many to mention. Excel spreadsheet, shout out to you as well. Guys, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it so much. We will see you again next week, but in the meantime, best of luck, and let's cash some tickets. Talk to you next week, everybody.